lovely bookworms, it's Ayla, and as you can tell from the title, I have decided to create my own book tag. And that tag is the influential women book tag. Now this tag is quite simple. All you have to do is to pick 10 different influential women and try to find characters in books that resemble them. So let's begin. So the first woman I'm going to talk about is quite a famous scientist, and that is Marie Curie. She lived from 1867 up until 1934. She was the first ever woman to win a Nobel Prize, and she won it for her research in radioactivity, which she did with her husband Pierre. And then later on, she became the first ever person, not just woman, to win 2 different Nobel Prizes in 2 different categories. One being physics, which was the first Nobel Prize that she won in 1903 for her research in radioactivity with her husband. The second being a Nobel Prize for chemistry for a continuation of her research. One of the things that made Marie Curie so successful, and I think that she's a woman that we should admire, is the fact that she was so dedicated to her work. She actually died from cancer that most people think was caused as a result of the amount of radioactivity she was exposed to, and even when she was battling cancer, she kept her research going and she kept researching the things that she loves. She was passionate about her work, and for that I wanted to pick a female character that was just as passionate as Marie Curie about her work. For that, I chose a character that I think most people will agree with me if they read the book, and that character is Dr. Cadwell from The Girl with All the Gifts. This book is set in a post-apocalyptic world where a zombie virus is broken out. People who read the book know that sometimes she's so dedicated to her work that it makes you think that maybe she's a tad bit sick. Like, she crosses a couple of red lines that most people don't cross, and she continues on with her work even when she herself is put in near-death situations. The first thing that pops into her mind is how she can contribute to her research, like the things that she discovers along the way. And I feel like there is no other female character who is as dedicated to her work as Dr. Cadwell. The next woman I'm going to talk about is Rosa Parks, who lived from 1913 up until 2005. I think that we are all very much aware of her story. She was an American civil rights activist. She refused to stand up and give up her seat on the bus in order for a white man to sit down, which can seem as a small thing, but back then it wasn't, and it basically paved the way for an entire movement. And personally for me, I remember hearing her story as a child and I always really admired her, and whenever I need to talk about heroes at school, she was the one that I always talked about. I feel like this is a great example of doing something that is considered, I guess, small, that brings forward a huge change. And for that, I wanted to choose a female character that has a very clear way of seeing what's right and wrong in her world, and somebody who wants to fight injustice. And for that, I also picked a character that was, my hero when I was a child. And that female character is Lera from His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. Basically, I feel like what defines Lera as a character is her ability to see when something is wrong and saying, you know what, I'm going to go out and fight it. Her story starts out with her best friend Roger getting kidnapped by the Gobblers and her saying, I promised I'm going to save him. It's not okay that somebody just kidnapped him. I'm going to set out and save Roger. From that point on in the story, I feel like every main action that she did that really moved the plot along had to do with what she felt was right and wrong. She always fought for justice throughout the story, and I think that she's a great role model for younger kids especially. And the next influential woman that I picked is Hatcha. I hope I said that correctly. Her name will appear on the screen. She's considered to be one of the most successful pharaohs, as well as she's considered to be the first great woman that we know about. And for that, I wanted to choose a female character who was a great leader, but not necessarily of a great nation. And for that, I chose a character that I think most of you guys haven't heard about, and that is Leah Jackson from Siege by Sarah Mosley. Now, Siege is a very, very dark YA dystopian standalone. It centers around a school shooting sometime in the future in this very high-tech school that a group of very, very troubled kids are able to take over the school, lock everybody in, and hold everybody ransom for this large, ridiculous amount of money that they want in return for getting them out safely. And throughout the book, they end up killing quite a lot of students and teachers alike. So if you're somebody that graphic violence scenes bother you, then don't read this book. But if you're somebody that it doesn't bother you that much, I really, really do recommend it. I think that Leah Jackson starts the story out as a character that really only is trying to save herself. Throughout the book, though, she really does grow into a role of a leader, and she suddenly feels responsible for everybody that's in the school, and she tries to help the younger students, and she's trying to help even, the people who bullied her and were mean to her throughout her entire years at this school. And I think that she's such a great example of a leader, especially once you read the book. You realize how this one person that never before shown any qualities of being a great leader really under this certain circumstance grows into being a leader that really helps lead, protect, and just be there for people who are in need. The next influential woman that I picked was Joan of Arc, who lived from 1412 up until 1431. She was the main protector of Charles VII and supporter, of course, as well as she was the person who really paved the way towards the French victory in the 100-year-old war they had against the British. For that, I wanted to choose a female character whose main role was a protector, but at the same time, she paved the way for drastic change. And I feel like there's no better character that fits this description than the character that I chose. That character is Vin from the Mistborn trilogy. Vin is Elend's protector. Elend is definitely Vin's Charles VII. And I feel like if Vin didn't protect Elend, he would have died in the first book. Let's be real for a second. And Vin is definitely also a character that brought change in every single book, especially at the end. She's a very, very influential female character in her world, and so it's only fitting that she represents Joan of Arc. So the next woman that I'm going to talk about is Harriet Tubman, who lived from 1822 up until 1913. I think that we all know her story of how she herself was enslaved, she was able to escape, and then through the Underground Railroad, she was able to help other people that were in the situation that she was in, so basically enslaved. And she herself that later on continued that work, and she became a Union spy. For that, I wanted to choose a female character that was able to help other helpless characters in her world when she was at the same situation as them. For that, I chose Paige from the Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. If you read this book, then you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to say anything else because it will really, really spoil this first book for you. I actually haven't continued on with the series yet, so I definitely want to pick up the second book and see how she continues to help the other characters around her. The next woman that I'm going to talk about lived in the ancient civilization, and that is Hypatia. She was a Greek mathematician, astronomer, and philosopher. For her, I wanted to choose a character that not only contains a vast amount of knowledge, for example Hermione Granger, but rather also values knowledge. And for that, I feel like I chose a very obvious choice, and that is Annabeth Chase from the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series, as well as the Heroes of Olympus series by Rick Riordan. I'm holding up the Bark of Athena because I feel like that's the one where her value of knowledge really comes through. I mean, she's the daughter of Athena, guys, the goddess of wisdom, so obviously she values knowledge. She prefers smarts over physical power, and sometimes that benefits her, sometimes it doesn't. So the ninth woman that I picked was Jane Austen. Jane Austen lived from 1775 up until 1817. I think that us as bookworms and book lovers feel and know the amount of influence that Jane Austen had on literature in general, and more specifically on the romance fiction genre. For that, I wanted to pick a character that influenced the characters around her through her literature. And for that, I picked a character that some of you may disagree with me, and that is Kath from Fangirl. Is fan fiction literature? That's a topic for an entirely different video. But none of us can ignore the fact that Kath does influence hundreds of characters around her with her fan fiction, being how successful she is on that website where she posts it. And in her more inner circle, she and her sister are very influenced by their shared bond of writing the fan fiction. So it definitely is a very influential thing in this book. The next woman that I'm going to talk about is a Russian woman, and she's Catherine the Great. She lived from 1762 up until 1796. She was the longest ruling female leader of Russia, as well as her era of reign was considered to be the golden age of Russia, where she basically helped make Russia one of the great powers of Europe. For that, I wanted to choose a character that brought prosperity for her, let's call it, side in the dystopian or fantasy world that she lives in. And for that, I chose a character that I don't necessarily like, and that is Lucia de Mora from the Fallen Kingdom series by Morgan Rhodes. Because, I mean, what do the de Moras have to lose when they have been prophesized almighty sorcerers backing up their every move? She is basically the safety net for the de Moras and her entire kingdom. Next, I'm going to talk about Eva Perón, who lived from 1919 till 1952. She was the first lady of Argentina, and that was due to the fact that she was married to the Argentine president, Juan Perón. She worked towards getting labor rights in her country, and that was because she herself came from a poor family and realized how difficult the struggle is. And that's also a main reason why the people of Argentina loved her so much. She was immensely loved by her people. That's why she was even given the title the spiritual leader of the nation. For that, I wanted to choose a female character that is immensely loved by the characters around her. For that, I chose Alaska from Looking for Alaska by John Green. I feel like she was immensely loved by the entire group of friends that she had, but at the same time, she was kind of the leader and the glue that connected everybody together, and she can definitely fit that description of being the leader of the group that's loved by everybody. And the last influential woman that I picked is Madonna, because nobody has influenced music and art like her. She is the queen of pop. She will always be the queen of pop, and I feel like nearly everybody knows her music. And for that, I wanted to choose a character who is daring, who isn't afraid to be bold and be different from others, just like Madonna is. And for that, I'm choosing a character from the book that I'm currently reading, and that is Lena from The Circle. I'm not sure if I said her name correctly, since this is a Swedish name, but this character is definitely bold, and she's not afraid to be different. She's not afraid to voice her opinion, be rude when she wants to be, call people out for their shit. I definitely feel like she answers the description of Madonna, so yeah. That's the end of my video. I would love to hear your opinions, so feel free to voice them down below in the comments. And the names of the people that I'm tagging will appear on the screen in 3, 2, 1. Thank you for watching, and I will have another video up for you guys soon, so I will see you then. Goodbye!